So what we have here is actually a very incredible find, something I've been looking for a long time. So obviously you can see it says Fein there on the cover. But what this actually is this is the entire service manual for all Fein products from the late 60s and early 70s. So we'll go ahead and go through these. But I was just very surprised to even find that stuff like this still exists, because this thing has probably been sitting in somebody's basement or attic for the past 30 years. And most of the time stuff like this would have just got thrown in the trash or recycled. So it's incredible that people actually held on to this stuff, so people like me can buy it. I got a pretty good deal on this. I mean, I paid probably about $15, which I think was very reasonable for what it is. Let's take a look at some of the things here on the front. There was a little bit of damage on this binder, but it looks like this binder came from the Vitter Corporation or Witter Corporation. So I did look this place up. They're actually still in business. Or at least there is a power tool corporation called the Vitter Corporation, which I assume is what this is. But these are obviously business cards for two guys, Edward Johnson, district manager, and Charlie Metzler, Western Regional Manager in California. So I'm guessing that this binder actually belonged to that corporation. Either that or just those cards somehow ended up in this binder. First thing I want to show you about this binder that's kind of incredible. This is actually a raised embossment of the Fein logo. So you would never ever see anything like this done today. They would just basically slap a sticker on here and say, oh, you know, good enough. So it's actually looks like it's a vinyl sticker. So somebody actually took the time to cut this out. So that's pretty incredible. Second thing about this binder, you see there, made in Germany, made in West Germany. So even the binder was made in Germany. So let's see if we can get a name on there. Looks like it says, you guys probably can't read that, but I think it says Krause, Krause. So in the front cover here, there was some damaged pages, just to be expected, because I think that this binder is probably from the late 60s to early 70s. So there's a couple of things in here that from this Vitter Corporation that didn't really belong. There is a parts diagram for this MB 2003 magnetic base, which looks to me like a magnetic core drill base. But really can't find any information on this model. And if you look up this company, they're actually based in Connecticut, not New York. I'm not sure what the purpose of that is doing in here. So here's basically where the manual actually starts. So my guess is that these would have gotten sent out to like high volume, you know, people who buy a lot of the Fein tools in high volume, or the service centers would have had a copy of this. So you can see there it's separated into 10 sections with 10 not labeled. So you got drills, tappers, screwdrivers, impact wrenches, lathe grinders, hand grinders, angle grinders, metalworking tools, balancers. But what's incredible is the sheer number of manuals that are in here. When I bought this, I thought there would only be probably 10 or so from the pictures that were sent, but it's pretty much got every model from the mid 60s to the early 70s in here. So a couple of things to note on the first one here, we actually have a drill that I restored not too long ago, the ASK 636. So the strange thing about it, if you go on the Fein website and search for these models, you're not going to come up with the exact model that you're looking for. There's always some kind of variation. So they seem to be kind of wiping out. Anytime they do some kind of major upgrade, they seem to be wiping out the manuals. I don't know if that's intentional or not, but I would think that you would want to preserve all of this information somewhere where people can access it. I'm sure somewhere in the Fein basement, there's all of these documents in a file cabinet somewhere. But it doesn't really do anybody good for somebody like me who's doing a restoration on a 30-year-old drill. Some of these pieces are kind of fragile. So we'll just take one of these out and take a quick look at it. This particular one's in a couple of different languages, but most of these are actually in English. There's a couple in German. But yeah, look at the artwork on there. That's pretty incredible. Then you got all the parts list. So the plan is for these, I'm going to try to scan them in, because frankly there's nowhere on the internet you can find these. If Fein had these on their websites, I wouldn't even think about scanning them in. But I challenge you to find somewhere on the Fein website where you can get these, because I haven't been able to find it. Maybe there's some back door somewhere that somebody knows about. So change the camera angle a little bit so you can get a little bit better view of the images here. Most of these were just basically one sheet flyers with a bifold, and they pretty much followed all the same format, where you list the specs up here, some basic description, you know, what maintenance you got to perform on it. In the fold out there would be the part schematic along with the part numbers, part list, and then continuing on the back they'll tell you more about maintenance, lubrication, how to dismantle it, and where to go for repair. So some of these are really impressive once we get to some of the old ones. If you look down here at the bottom, there actually is a date code. So in this case it's 273. So here's a 1973. And I did notice that all of the older models actually had a color diagram, color logo. Most of these models had a 42 volt option as well. And as far as I can see, these are all 230 volt tools. So if we move on here, we got a couple more drills. And then we got a angle drill. This is where it becomes really impressive, because these almost look like a blueprint. This is almost like something you would give a production when they're building the machine. I'm sure the old timers can tell you the old D-size drawings were basically the size of a kitchen table that they used to make these drawings out of. So they shrink them down here so they look a lot finer than they are, but when you blow them up, you can see the smudges and the pencil marks and everything. So really this 25 in the actual drawing, if this was done hand drawing, would be probably about that high. So it's very, very impressive. I mean, this is the kind of the artwork you can almost kind of frame. So we got a lot more drills here. This whole section number 1 is all drills. But you do kind of have to wonder about the guy at Fein who gave the drill the model number ASS. So we got more drills. So we got here this is pretty cool impact wrench, up to a M16. That's a pretty big screw. So the next thing I wanted to show you guys, and there are a couple of places in here where somebody actually hand wrote some notes. Yeah, well, look at this. I didn't notice this before. See right here, there's actually a repair. Somebody cut out a different sheet and glued it on there. So this right here is one of the ones I wanted to show you guys. If you remember, one of the restorations I did was on this guy, the ASG 658. And I could find basically nothing. I even emailed Fein, you know. I said, hey, do you have any of the part schematics? I didn't hear anything from them. Emailed them again. Didn't hear anything from them. Gave them a call, and they didn't really know what I was talking about. So that was that. So I just basically did it on my own. I didn't even notice that there was a missing piece here. But you can see there, it looks like there's a depth gauge in the form of kind of an L-shaped bracket. That might be something I look to reproduce in the future in order to complete this. The other thing that was missing that I replaced was this handle, but that's just basically a piece of pipe that you can fabricate yourself. But it looks like, yeah, adding some kind of depth gauge would probably help. So this is probably one of the cooler flyers. This is actually a lathe grinder. So you can use this for either internal or external grinding. But if you look here, there's some nice detailed diagrams, and this is one of the older models from 1965. Then we have some die grinders. Again, parts that you... And yeah, some of these have some really impressive diagrams on them. Can't imagine the time it took to put these together. It was probably pretty tedious for some of the documentation guys. That most companies now don't even have a technical writing department. They basically get their engineers to do all this work for them. Here's one of the pieces that got a little bent. So here's some shears, sheet metal shears. So if anybody sees any of these models that you need these parts lists for, I can try and prioritize those, because it's probably going to take some time to scan these in. I've learned not to use the automatic scanners with fragile stuff like this, because it's very easy for those things to rip a page up. So here's one right here that's actually in German. The QB141A. So this one almost looks like it was printed like on a typewriter. And here's another older one, but this one's in English. I noticed everything here is printed in Germany. This was all done in Germany and sent over. And you notice at the top here, these all say to be handed to the workshop. So here's a pneumatic nibbler. There's another hand note there, 80 grams of grease. There's a electric hacksaw. There's a different model hacksaw. There's more hacksaws. So there's one. Has anybody ever seen this model before? The AST663. I think kind of looks like something you'd see like in a zombie movie. So this is definitely for doing pipe work, because that's what this ring right here is for. You put a pipe through there, and it looks like it clamps down. Looks like it's a chain. It's actually a chain clamp, but it definitely looks like it's not a very. Looks like a pretty dangerous tool to use. Yeah, here's a description of the clamping device. It almost looks like a chain wrench that you would see these days for doing cast iron work. Oh, this one actually has a centerfold. So this one actually opens up twice. Infinitely variable speed control. I guess you probably couldn't get away with saying that these days, because now everything these days is digital, so it's not technically infinite like it was in the old analog days. Here's another one that opens up. So here's one that this seems kind of out of place. This is more like something that you would get with the power tool. So I'm not sure why this one's different than the other service manuals. So there's a couple back here that are kind of very interesting, very specialized tools, and if anybody's ever actually seen any of these, you should leave a comment below, because these high frequency tools are something you would see in like auto manufacturing plants. The higher the frequency is, the lower the weight you can get for the motor. It's the same reason why airplanes use 400 hertz AC for their motors, because you can get the weight of that transformer down. To get these really high power grinders, it looks like they were stepping up the frequencies. So it's not like you can't just hook this up to your wall. You need basically a VFD, or back then it would have been a rotary phase converter to get that frequency. But there's a couple of very high frequency grinders back here, 200 to 300 hertz, and these ones were, I think, really interesting. mostly because of this hook right here. If you've ever seen videos of the old time auto body shops and manufacturing plants, you would see these basically counterbalances coming up from the ceiling, hooking onto the tools. And what they essentially would do is make the tool buoyant, so the operator didn't have to actually strain to hold this. Because if you look at the weight of some of these, this one's 18.5 pounds, which isn't horrible, but when you get to some of these bigger tools, let's see if we can find one that's even heavier. So you look at this one, it's 21.8 pounds. So if you can imagine, if you didn't have that counterbalance, trying to hold that 21-pound grinder in your hand for 8 hours a day. So that's pretty incredible stuff there. I've never actually seen any of these high-frequency grinders before. But I'm sure there's people out there who have used these, that might even have used this exact model. And so leave a comment below if you have any stories about using any of these old school Fein tools. That's interesting. Parts 50 and 72 are lapped, only to be supplied in pairs. So 50 is bevel pin, 23 teeth. So that is a specialized gear, I guess, for doing high frequency. So 50 and 72 bevel gear. So they actually match the gear pairs together. So when they manufactured these, there's, I guess, one or two guys that was their job, was actually lapping the gears together so that they had a perfect fit. So very, very cool stuff. And like I said, I'm going to try to scan these in. If I get around to it, I'll just throw them on the website. That is, unless Fein wants to actually post these on their website. That's one of the things I really never understood about some companies, how you've been making products for 100 years, and you have the documentation. So why wouldn't you actually? Because I can go to the Milwaukee Tools website right now and pull up the Sawzall schematic from 1965 with no problem. But if I want to find something that Fein made back in the 60s, good luck trying to find that. But yeah, I'm very impressed by this. These things almost belong in a museum. They're that good. So if anybody knows how rare these are, if they've seen something like this before, it could be that these were very common all the time, but you would think that somebody would have scanned these in at some point if they were very common. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that. The binder itself is not really in great condition, as you can see. There's a couple of tears. It looks just like a vinyl. I think I'm probably just going to try to tape it. And as you can see, it's definitely seen its fair share of use in the shop. So just to give you an idea of how much grease this thing has probably accumulated over the years. So yeah, you can see there, that's definitely pulling that grease out. Well, that's going to be it for this one. Hope you guys enjoyed that. Just thought I would share this cool find with you guys, and I'll catch you guys next time.